All right, all praise to the Most High Yahweh, and to His Son, my brother, Amashiach Yahweh Shai. Peace and blessings to my brothers and sisters from the Israelite tribes. All right, in this video, we're going to get into Mtdna information, and we're also going to get into some of, our deep concerns dealing with a certain Israelite tribe, and then we're going to get into some of the different doctrines, but not too deep into those doctrines, but uh, we're going to get close to those doctrines. So let's get into this information. So what we are looking at is a layout chart of maternal groups of different ethnic groups of people dealing with the women, and they have this layout dealing with the groupings that are connected to the regions, and also the groupings that are closely related. So we're gonna get into that information. So real quick, we're gonna review a previous topic. The previous topic is dealing with the L grouping of people. So let's get into the topic at hand. So who are these L groups of people? These are dealing with women that are Hermetic and Shemitic women. And we're going to scroll back and do something real quick. Or maybe not. Or maybe. So go to the table of nations. So all these groups of people right here have a Y-DNA, and all these people have an Mtdna. So the same thing and same concept with the Y-DNA is a similar content and contact with the Mtdna. So we have to be aware of these things. So let's get back into the point that I'm trying to make. So we scroll back. So we are looking at this L group. So previous topic, someone was trying to say that L0 to L3 was dealing with Hebrew Israelite women, and that was their point of view. My argument was just L2 was dealing with Israelite women, and so everybody is taking a few points that they are trying to make for that argument with L0 to L3. One of the points is they are trying to say the different foremothers of Israel was dealing with four different women, where we knew already Rachel and Leah was sisters. So at this point, it's at least, less than four. It's dealing with, um, the two servants and sisters. So sisters, they are, in the same haplogroup, so they can't be a different, ethnic group or haplogroup with having the same mom and father. So we some people made the argument that all the sister and the servants were all Laban daughters. So even with that being the case, it would just still be just one haplogroup uh, dealing with the grouping of women, no matter what. And even if it was, the two daughters and the two other maids, it would just be three. So you're either gonna have enough haplogroups in Africa to cover those things or not enough, you know. And my argument is you have other Shemitic and Hamitic groupings of people that need to be represented as well outside of those groups of people because, you know, um, Israel at that time was still a very fairly new grouping of people and nation of people. So we have to have an understanding of that. We have to have an understanding of our genetic pool of being from Abraham lineage. So we have to have an understanding of that. The other issue is um, even if you are from another grouping of Y-DNA or Mtdna, you have to look at it as a blessing, you know. You just don't want to be Edom, you know. But other than that, you you're in a group, your genetics are, you know, very unique, you know, even in the Japhetic grouping of people, you have different basal groups, different mutations, and you even have um, white people trying to steal uh, other Caucasian people identities among their own group of people. And it's like, wow, you know, certain things has to come with a certain um, respect and understanding of the energy and the process of people being placed and built up in a certain region as a certain being. And we have to put all that into contact with the information that we are collecting about DNA. So remember, you know, the L1 group, the lady that said she's L1, that's a, you know, that's an interesting group of women, you know, because you're dealing with not just Ishmaelite grouping of content, but you're dealing with Arab women. So you have two Shemitic grouping of L1s that you have to have an understanding of. And that's why I go to this chart to try to explain and get people to realize that, you know, there's more that meets the eye, you know. We have to have a very focused and flexible understanding with this information because you gotta either get it or you're not gonna get it. So L0 would be a meta group of people. L1 would be your Ishmaelite grouping of people or your Abrahamic stock of people, as well as Aram. Um, you have L2, your Hebrew Israelite grouping of women. L3, your Edomite women. L4, your Midianite women. L5, another grouping of latter day Hamitic women. L6, a latter day grouping of Edomite women. And then it breaks into M. M would be your grouping of Elamites. And then after Elam, you have your grouping of Japhetic people with the N. And the N is broken down into all these groups. And some of these groups are closely connected or related, and some of them are paired together for, you know, good reasons and bad reasons. And then you have certain standalone groups with the Japhetic people the same with Shemitic people. You have standalone groups. Uh, L0 is his own ancestor. You have CZ among the in group. CZ is like a standalone group, but it's still a um, latter day grouping of um, Japhetic people. And then you have uh, D. D as its own standalone group. D is just a representation of Ammon and Moab, or Moab and Ammon. And those are Shemitic groups of people. And then we get into everybody deep, dark concerns about the tribe of Joseph. So um, everybody want to know um, about Joseph. I view Joseph as Joseph, not as Joseph with the sons of Ephraim and Manasseh, because when it comes to DNA, you're just receiving the DNA information from your parents. And once everybody understand that, then they will understand that the women from that same tribe of Joseph would be L2. So to put people nerves at rest, we will go there. Let's look at the tribe of Joseph. So we are at Wiki 1, L2, and we're going to just scroll down. We're going to scroll all the way down. So we are looking at the tribe of Joseph. So remember, Joseph is dealing with his twins. The twins was given blessings, Ephraim and Manasseh. And people are asking about that. And our understanding is that Joseph married a so-so Egyptian woman, and they had kids and so on. And everybody want to know if the women are L0 or L2. Well, you're looking at the women. So all this from L2C to L2D is Joseph, or Ephraim and Manasseh. So we are going to scroll up. We're going to find the same grouping. And so we are looking at the women grouping of L2C and L2D. So these are dealing with Joseph. So that would be your information on them. And then this L2E would be your Benjamite grouping of women. So remember, there was already a precedent of Dinah being a L2 for the group. So there's perimeters of the grouping of women. And then Joseph is not the last son of Israel. Benjamin is. So that's another perimeter. And then the other thing is Joseph and Benjamin, they have the same parents. So we just have to have an understanding of DNA information, how it works with the same parents structure. And Y-DNA, you could probably better understand it when it comes to mtDNA. it just takes a while to, let it soak in because, you know, we've been told exactly who we are when it comes to Y-DNA, but not too many DNA information Israelites are going to get into the Mtdna information because of the different doctrines. Some have that doctrine of uh, one West, to where it's just through the father lineage of people, and um, you can have a mother of another nation to be a product of. And my understanding with DNA information and with scriptures, we have to be the complete package of Israel. We just can't be parts of Israel. We have to be spiritual and physical Israel as well to receive the full understanding of these blessings that we are supposed to, you know, um, obtain in the future. So um, we just have to get very comfortable with knowing this stuff. MtDNA is fairly new to me, and I had to go back to the basic stuff to figure out certain things, and I found out that even Dr. Ephraim, um, one of the uh, so-called DNA information student, he's a genealogist, or he's in that study. He wouldn't even touch this information, and it's because he already disclosed his DNA information. I disclosed my DNA information. So are there biases? Yes, and with that bias, he removed himself out, and he took a stance, and he took a side. He was like, mixing is gonna happen. Mixing is gonna be like this and like that. And when he did that, he aligned himself with certain philosophies and doctrines. And I'm saying, I want to go further with this DNA information. Um, I'm saying, E1B1A is the Y-DNA, and L2 and these branches are our women DNA cycles. So, and I'm going off the information that I'm constantly seeing that's verifying those things. Other than that, you know, everybody still may have that belief system of the different um, foremothers and other, groupings of women before them. But once you start to break down those things, these are, limited slots that are filled with just a few women groups. It's not a lot of women groups. Even when you get into this, like this layout chart, uh, when it comes to the Americas, you have Native American groupings. In the Americas, you have, for Y-DNA, it's common to have Q and C and sometimes R1B, just still three haplogroups. When they come to mtDNA, they have A, B, C, D, and X as those native groupings of people. And most of those groups are the same people, minus this D group. You have a Shemitic group of people. So, um, if anything, um, if there was a issue with Israel, there would be a latter grouping of people. The similar thing that you see with Ham and Edom, you'll see. And the reason that you're seeing that with Ham and Edom is because Ham has a large grouping of people. And then Edom married so many women. So you have to have an understanding of Ham having so many sons, and then Edom just marrying so many different ethnic groups of women. So that's how they got that. Israel was just limited to those groups of women. So whoever has this doctrine of um, Laban's daughters being all sisters is getting close to being very accurate. Other than that, um, I'm just going by the different parameters that I see with this information, and that's about it with that thought. Um, Anything else? E1B1B. So when you see the white Edomites, that small percentage of Edomites or the tares of Edom, they are mostly getting the complexion from this group, this HV grouping of people. So as for Edom, L3, like we said before, L3 and L6 closely related. L3 is the ancestor of L6, and then they try to connect M and N, all these, to Edom, and we already know that's not the case. This is just the whole plot of them trying to put two groups of different white people into history, into science, and they want to use DNA for that. And they also want to do the same thing with those same groups to try to make them Jewish people, and they can't do it. But I show you something interesting though. Nevertheless, they did this. They did this with our helper group, with the women. They won't do the same thing with the guys, but they did it with the women. Um, let's see, where's the Jewish women? And notice, look how scattered, the same scattering that we would see with the guys. Um, we see it more with the women. And it's interesting because, the information just vary with both sides of the sample pools. But I was uh, interested in this information. If I could find it. Here we go. So this is dealing with L2A. 112A is recognized as an Ashkenazi specific haplogroup. seen amongst Ashkenazi Jews with ancestry in Central and Eastern Europe. It has also been detected in small numbers in ostensibly non-Jewish Polish population, where it is presumed to have come from Ashkenazi atmosphere. However, this haplotype constitutes only a very small proportion of Ashkenazi mitochondrial lineages. And we know that because these are definitely um, tear grouping or mixed groupings of women, because the other half, if they was to do the other part of the information with these women, um, they would definitely probably be from, you know, the R group, the I, the J, those grouping of Y-DNA. So, in, in some studies, the the interesting thing about this is the limit of maternal DNA. This is just part of the information. So they would have to do the other half um, with the paternal grouping. And the only thing we could go off of is when they are Bantu or West African or certain parts of Africa, when they are listed on here with the ethnic groups or region, then we know that there's a 80% or higher possibility that this is dealing with a full grouping of Hebrew Israelite physical DNA traits. Other than that, when you get to Europe and Asia, the percentages are going to drop dramatically because most likely these are the remnant of certain, populations that migrated via slave trade, via other um, movement of people, and the percentages of them with that's still holding that group on the maternal side versus the paternal side is not going to be that high, you know. Especially with the way we are scattered, you know. There's some PDF files that I have that shows, you know, a consistent pattern of, you know, the Y-DNA of a male grouping with a certain haplogroup, and then another mtDNA information for that male is like consistent with the region, and then the next group would be like mtDNA dealing with women, and it's like, okay, this, and then they'll put the region, and that's it. It's could be consistent of a very closely related haplogroup for Y, or it could just be a regional thing to where it was a woman sample, the woman survey uh, information different from the area that she's living in or what she was identifying as. So we just have to perfectly piece these puzzles to get the proper understanding, and once we do that, then we could see and understand other parts of the puzzle that we've been missing. So I think I went into a decent detail structure for um, future videos. This is just a building towards further information with more YDNA information and more mtDNA with more mtDNA information. If anything, we know that we have the information about Joseph and Benjamin, and that's the beginning. And once we continue to build, we'll figure out the rest about the other grouping of people or women, and we'll be better off with the collection of information and understanding that we're gaining, and then we could constantly apply it and reapply it to other things that we are doing. This is just giving everybody a peace of mind that some people actually want. Somebody I was watching somebody podcast or YouTube channel, and somebody was you know emotionally saying how they needed a 12 tribe chart for their understanding, for their edification. And they was like emotionally stating this because, this is why a lot of people are getting into being Israelite because of our culture and customs that we should have, and the belief system that we need to hold to prove and to say to people who we are, and how we exist right here, right now. And a lot of people want access to that, our people and other people. And DNA would definitely do that for you. But when it comes to that, the other chart, that chart of One West, a lot of black people are all one B, a lot of, Native American people, a lot of people dealing with even haplogroup Q are dark complexion people. So when they go black phenotype or dark complexion people, you have um, Moabites with the CYDNA, with their dark complexion, with their mixing with the R1B people in different parts of the Americas. So it's like you have perfectly dark complexion people that are not E1B1A, and they look at the chart and they see Black American, African American, a Native American, they will associate and gravitate to that chart when the chart is not, even close to accurate to being perfect for those people, because they are not Israelites. They are, in their own unique way, um, a certain special group of people. They just not chosen people. They just not Israelites, but their DNA is proof of other things and content that bear witness of them being around us. So we have to be mindful of all those things. And like always, I just want to say all praise to the Most High Yahweh, and to His Son, my brother, Amashiach Yahushai, and peace and blessings to my brothers and sisters from the Israelite tribes once again. Thank you for the views. Thank you for the comments. And like always, leave a comment and I'll reply to it as soon as possible. If not, I'll make a video And with that, I'm going to end this video. And peace and blessings to all.